Okay, so I'm kind of going to go a little bit free form. I do have a model in my head. I didn't sketch it out, which actually gives me a little bit of freedom to do something else. So what we're doing is we're overbuilding the surfaces, and then we're going to use other surfaces to trim them back. And this allows us to make some adjustments as we look at our design model, whether the design adjustments come from engineers or from ourselves or from printing models or whatever. We'll have some freedom to update some things. So part of this too is going to be a little bit reinforcing how to build a surface model. So at the heart of it, what I'm going to do is build a six-sided model. It's going to have picture a cube but with some form to it. So excuse me. So what I'm going to first do is I'm going to simply build my top surface. And I still saw a lot of people creating curves like this with these extra points. I want you guys to try to be very cautious about that, okay? Because it makes for it hard to manipulate and to edit. So if you're going to do it, you can see here, I can get that almost perfect with only using a singular, with a start and a finish. So I want everyone to try to really be cautious about not going overly complicated with things. So I've got that, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to build the section, or the front portion for it to sweep over. Now, here's something that I want you guys to learn as we're building things. If I come in, well, you know what? No, I'm not going to share that right now. I'll save that till later. So what I'm doing is I'm just building the side profile. I need this. I don't want a dip in the center because I'm going to sweep it over in half. So I want to make sure that that is mirrored or perfectly horizontal. And we've talked about that in the past. We don't want that V. We're just going to mirror this about this. So fairly simplistic top form. I can simply use a swept surface here. Get my shape. I'm not going to be too worried about everything being pinned. Now, keeping in mind again, and we'll get into this later, what is the controlling point? Do I want it up here? Do I want it down here? So we're not too worried about that right now. So you can see what I've done is I'm just building up the top shape to build my sidewalls because I'm going to sweep another surface. And you can see what I'm doing is I'm building it. Oops. Bear with me here. I don't know what just happened there. Oh, it's because I'm still in this. There we go. So what I'm doing is I'm building beyond my surfaces. And we'll talk about why we want to do that here in a little bit. And you can see for the most part, right now, I'm just using swept surfaces. And again, since I'm asking you for this one, it wants to know, do you want to just go to the left, just to the right, or all directions? We'll do all directions. Now, here, I don't actually want this to be the path it takes. I want it to follow this path. So I need to go in and reverse these. Because I want to use this to trim back. And you can see there's going to be a lot of steps that we're doing to this. Now, you saw before where I did the sketch across the whole point, and I mirrored that over. The question is that necessary? It doesn't have to be, because I can just mirror all the bodies over. But I always want to make sure if that is the case, oops, and I grabbed the wrong tool. And right now, I'm not looking at my curvature, I'm not looking at my curvature combs. And partly because of that, I pretty much know what it's doing. If I come in here, I know it flattens out here, and then I know it's going to kind of do that whale tail over here. So as you guys go, you're going to slowly learn, oops. My graphics card is having an issue. Bear with me here. You guys are going to slowly learn more and more and see what's happening. Why is this not? Oh, that's why. So, and I was a little bit wrong. So it is a little bit completely kind of equal curvature. So maybe I do that because I want it to roll up underneath because I want this to be viewed as a belly. So, and what you can do, what you can see is I'm creating all the sides. And you can see one of the things that's happening, if I come in here, that this surface doesn't go far enough outward. It dives back in because the length isn't right because of the surface form coming out. So we can come in. I'm just going to edit that a little bit. Pull it out. Cool. Okay, there. So now basically what we've got is all of our sides to this. I'm going to actually blow this away here for a second. There. So what we can do, you can see very simply that we've built our surfaces that we defined, and we kind of overbuilt them now. So we looked at each individual surface as an intersecting shape. So we've got our side panel, top panel, front, and bottom. Now, I'm not worried about radiuses at this point. This is me roughing in a form to see what I like and what I've got. But what we can do is we want to get rid of all the excess now. So it's a matter of coming in and going surface trim or trim surface. And we're going to go standard. What that means is that you trim one at a time. So I can use this tool and I can select one thing. And that's what happens. If I do mutual, what that means is I can select multiple surfaces and it's going to understand what it intersects with. I can come back and then select remove. And you can see here it highlights that where that edge is, so we'll remove that. And it looks as if one of our, oh no, maybe it does. It looks as if our surfaces don't necessarily fully intersect where we want it to be. So if we look at it, this top one doesn't come far enough back. So we'll select that, because that's the one trick to this, is we need to make sure that everything intersects. So this can be somewhat tedious method, and it's not what I use to find the form, but it can be very useful. And for this, let's actually trim it in multiple selections. So we're going to trim, and we're going to say all the surfaces. We're going to use that, and then what we'll do is we'll get, oh, and instead of removing, we're going to select keep. I think that'll be easier. So we want to keep that. We want to keep that. That. And that. Let's see if we got it right. My apologies if we didn't. There we go. So now you can see we've got our base form here with that trimming back. Now, the advantage that we have is if someone comes and says, well, I don't like the width. I need this to be back a little bit further. So if we come in and we edit this sketch, we can pull this back. Now, as long as it still intersects with these pieces, we could pull this back a little bit and everything is still going to update properly. We've got our new shape. We can come in and take this one and say, you know what, we want to move this forward a little bit, or we want to do this. Doesn't mean it looked good, but you can see now that I am updating things as we go. Now, we can add knockouts, but this is going to be, hey, this is the first rough form. And this could be simply a razor or something, I don't know. But we have that ability to then start playing with the forms and manipulating it a little bit. So if I come in, I'm just going to make this into a solid quickly because I want to toss on some quick radii. So I'm going to come in and do a planar surface because I just want to worry about half. We'll stitch that together. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we've got our form. It's a simple form. We can toss on some radiuses. I envision this. And the reason that I didn't add all the radiuses in the sketches, because as we talked about, if I came in and I made this spline part of that radius, it would be hard to manipulate downstream. Oh, I don't want to sketch. Versus I can come in now, I'll use the tools. I'm going to go with the fillet type. I want this to be, let me just see. We're going to make it curvature continuous. And if we look at curvature continuous, circular is exactly that. It's a 3-point arc. Where in curvature continuous, takes the arc, follows this surface a little bit, and then down into this surface. What we can also then do is come back and say we want it to be asymmetrical, which means instead of being 10 millimeters at the top and 10 millimeters at the bottom, we can adjust it. Whoops. And we can get more of a sweep in there. Now you can also see if I'm making this kind of a forward going motion, and you can see here, for whatever reason, it does not like what's going on. So what we can do when radiuses like this happen, we can put that in. And we can say, do we like that? Does that look good or not? Let's actually come in and we're going to open it up. So radiuses can be surfacing too. So I'm going to bring this into KeyShot quickly. So I know it doesn't look good. I don't actually need to bring it into KeyShot to know. But I want you guys to be doing that. And again, right now, Why did that not go in there? So much for you guys right now is subjective. You may think it looks good because someone hasn't explained to you why it doesn't necessarily look good yet. And I'll talk to that a little bit here in a second once I get this to come in properly. There we go. So, the reason it doesn't look good, see how it has no direction? It kind of gets in there. It doesn't know what to do. It's got that wobble. And that's what you can see in this view. It looks decent because you can kind of see a highlight there. But you can see here how it stops and it has a weird build. So we want to avoid that. If my view is I want to have this radius come up and go along there, but I want it to follow this path first, what do I need to do? Now, many times, another command that we can use, and I think someone had played with it, but what we can do is we can tell the software and say, we want to do a face fillet. And what we're going to do is we're going to select the faces that we want it to follow along. So it gives the software a little bit more information. So if I select this face, this face, this face, and we're just going to leave it dead end there. And then we'll come back and we're going to select this face. And what we want to do is, see how the arrows are pointing outward? We want them to point inward because the radius isn't going like this, it's going like this. So we just want to come in and flip those face directions and flip that face direction there. Huh. Is there an issue there? So it looks like there may be some issue with this fillet. Let me just see something here. We're going to come in. And as we talk about form, this is where it's extremely important because you want everything to be nice and smooth, so you take the time to do it. Surface modeling can take much longer than solid modeling in my experience to get that shape and form. Sorry, I'm just over here. What I'm doing is I'm fixing my image quality to make sure that I'm seeing something right. Because it looks as if it's doing it there. So what we're going to do is, I like that radius, but we're just going to scroll back here. And it may be that my form cuts too far over there, but I like that. So I'm going to still try, and we're going to come in, and we're going to go face fillet there, and there. And I think we had that at 10. Okay. So now let's see if that works. So again, first thing I want to do is I'm just going to try to do a normal fillet. And you can see that we're still getting that problem going on in there. And this is the nature of the way the shape of the geometry. So let's come back and we're going to do the face fillet. And it's not going to like it. Okay, so does not like it. This is where I'm going to show you guys something that as we do the surfacing and we build things in. So I'm not going to let that change what I want to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut out the space and I'm going to put in my own fillet. So what I'm going to do is I'll come in and draw a sketch, and I'm just going to do this really quick. And I actually have more control over this and there's a variety of ways I can do this. I could draw this on, I could offset surfaces, but the point here is I just kind of want to show you, because we talked about this before, now we're going to do kind of the patch. So we'll go insert, curve, split line. Oh, whoops. I forgot this has to go all the way through. So we can come back and trim out this. Sorry, what am I trying to find here? Delete face. And basically what I'm doing is I'm creating the path that I want these surfaces to follow along. Okay, so basically what you can kind of see now is what does that shape look like wherein we've no longer got the surface. That's where we would want to put our curve in. And we've done a few things here. Again, we can play and edit and overbuild. But if I come in, I now can, if I want, create a curve along here and sweep it. So if I come in, and for this, what are we going to do here? Let me just do one thing, because what I want to do is I want to sweep the curve from here to here, but I need to have it be able to stop at a certain point. So I'm just going to come in on the side here. Yeah, let's just do this. So this is kind of ugly, but it's going to get my point across. Okay. So what I can do now is I can come in and I'm going to loft from that edge to that edge. And if you recall, we have start constraints and end constraints. So I can say on this start constraint, I want that to be tangent to face. And it adjusts it. I can then come over here and I can say end constraint, I want that to be tangent to face. So now it's starting to build in that radius. Now I can adjust these and get the different shapes. What I can then do after that, let's say that's what I want. I can come in and do a boundary surface. Clear that. And I can fill this gap in. I'm going to say, hey, I want this as my path, and I want to follow this. Oh, for some reason it grabbed that. There we go. And I want it to follow this. And then part of the reason why I did the boundary constraint is because I'm going to try to make it, and I'm going here really sloppy, so I don't know if it will. I want it to be tangent to that face. And then at the same time, I want it to be tangent to these faces. And remember, that was the advantage of the boundary surface, because I'm giving it boundaries, but I want it to be doing certain things. Now, it's still not very pretty. Question?
I was just going to ask at like what point, because it's like that troubleshooting where I feel like I'm just not there yet. You know what I mean? Like figuring out that problem there.
Oh, so I mean, so here's the reality. I'm faster than every one of you. It's not that I'm better than you. It's that I've run into more, oh, this doesn't work. So it takes time. You know, as you learn the tools more and more, it's going to get better and better for you. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight, unfortunately. When I first started 3D modeling, you know, and imagine I didn't have, like, the forums weren't out there. You know, like chat groups, user groups. I was on there constantly. So as we go, you know, it's just going to be a matter of how many different ways do you know how to do it? And do you know what the problem was? I think I know what the problem was there is I was asking it from a geometric standpoint to do something that was not the nicest. Partly because I haven't thought this model out very well. Does that make sense? I know it's not a great answer to say, ooh, tomorrow you'll get it.
Yeah, no, I got it. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So what we end up with now is something that is just ugly. So here's the hazard. I don't know why it's all faceted like that though. This is just going quick. But this is a sketch model. Sometimes it's a matter of just like the rough sketches. And you guys will do this as well. This is my first pass. This is what I wanted to get. This is the form. Okay, what else do I want to do with this? You know, it's not the prettiest, but it's a sketch model. It's for me to get my workflow. It's for me to get the overall size, shape, and feel of it. I may prototype this purely to put it in my hand. If all I'm going to do is put it in my hand to make sure I got the ergonomics right and the shape right and the feel right, well then I don't need to make sure that my highlights are perfect. I don't need to make sure that this here is perfect. It's a sketch model. It's loose, it's rough. I could take this and bring it into KeyShot, turn it into a shaded image, and then very easily come in and start sketching over top of it. You know, it's like, okay, well, I like this overall form. I think it looks good. What's it going to look like now instead of me doing more details, but coming into Sketchbook? Let's just do this here quick. No, I'm not going to even bother to do that. Coming into Sketchbook and then using this model to sketch over top. So this is what we were kind of talking about before, where it's a quick model. You bring it in, you know, some quick surfaces that we laid down. You can start sketching over it and be like, okay, well, you know what? Maybe I don't like this form here. Maybe I want that to be, here, let's do this. Maybe I want that to be a little bit more bowed here. You know, in the middle, and I'm gonna actually do what I say don't do, because I'm just doing a quick sketch model. I'm gonna drop in a spline point, and then I'm gonna say maybe I just want this raised up a little. You know, because I want that more of an arc. So there, now I've got a little bit of a different look to it. It's more rounded. You know, I could save this out. Maybe from a standpoint here, I want this to dive down more. Maybe we wanted to do more of a hump up in the section. You know, now, I moved this in so the trimming didn't work. So it blew up a few things, but that partly because I wasn't thinking. But now all of a sudden, I'm getting a different speed, form, and a shape. Oh, I start liking that a little bit better. Let's see, can we fix that easily enough? No. But now I could take that form, and now all of a sudden you see I'm getting a variety of quick forms that I can use to sketch over top of. I can do this again and say, okay, well, Maybe I want something like this, and I'm just going to scroll back here.
When you're doing the rollback, do you roll back to the sketch that you want to edit?
Oh, yeah. So I know. So what I'm doing is I know what sketch I did. So like normal. So here's my. My top surface, my side surface. So I kind of know what sketches are what ones. So all I'm doing is I'm not even necessarily rolling back. I'm just editing that sketch. And you can see here, I don't always have to go in to edit the sketch anymore. But, well, here, let me show you something. So I can actually just go in. See, now if I start going too wild, I've blown it up. There. There. So if this was the base form, I know that, hey, I can go in and I'm going to edit this a little bit. I can come in and say, well, I want that to kind of curl. I want that to curl under more. But you can see there, I blew it up because I pulled it too far out. So I didn't overbuild my surfaces enough for that dramatic of a change. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. I've had some times where they're like, oh, you built this so that we could do. Oh, we just need to make it like 4 inches wider. I'm like, I didn't build for 4 inches. Who the hell's making 4 inches wider on a blender? And then you can go in and add your other details in there. But you can see here how by overbuilding it, it allows me to make some different forms and different shapes. Same as back here. If someone says, you know what? Let's see if I want to just see how far I went back here. So you can see here I only went this far back. Let's say someone said, well, we want to have that back pull out to here. Well, then I simply have to remember, okay, great. We'll pull this out further. We'll really overbuild it. And what I'm going to do, yep. Now, I've got that much space to build it, but this isn't far enough back. So if I move this out to here, it's going to crash. So that means that before we do that bottom surface, the top or the side surface would need to be built out. Now that's one of those things wherein you want to pay attention to what you're doing. And usually, like I know, like if I'm working on a handheld blender or a power tool, I'm going to overbuild the surfaces, but I'm not overbuilding them by 5 inches or 10 inches. Something's gone drastically wrong if all of a sudden someone says we need another 5 inches of space. It's more for pushing and pulling. But at the same time, here's something that I forgot to show you. Let me do this. So I overbuilt the top surface. Well, let me take the side surface and I'm going to snap it to that edge on that top surface. Okay? Everything updates. Now, I'm going to do this really drastically. I'm going to modify my bottom surface. Because we overbuilt things, so we have a lot of room. Keeping in mind, I'm going to overbuild it. I got to pay attention to what my shape looks like. And I'm going to build it to there. Everything's going to update. Now, let's say for some reason I wanted to overbuild it even more. You saw how I snapped that side sketch to the top surface edge. So if I come in, I'm going to take this, we're going to pull it out further, and you can see my curve is getting horrible looking. It's so flat. The side surface came all the way out with it. And the reason the side surface came all the way out with it, whoops, was because I had snapped the